Good evening, everyone. It's 7 p.m. We'll start the Wednesday, March 16th Bruderheim Town Council meeting. Would someone from council be willing to read the acknowledgement? Councillor Wayne.
Today, I acknowledge that the town of Bruderheim is located on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis Nation of Alberta. The town of Bruderheim honors the first peoples of this land. We recognize that we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of Cree, Métis, Blackfoot, amongst other nations who have been here for thousands of years. Therefore, the town of Bruderheim has an inherent responsibility to foster healthy relationships with First Peoples and further the calls to action as outlined in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. So we call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda from administration?
Nothing from admin, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything from council for additions, deletions, or changes? Hearing none, look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Deputy Mayor Judy.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thanks for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Thank you. This evening, we're fortunate. We have lots of delegations coming to visit us. So the first one up is Enbridge Alliance Pipeline Donation to Community Park. We have Shelby Kennedy, Enbridge Senior Advisor Community and Indigenous Engagement, Public Affairs, Communications, Sustainability, and Cody Hokanen. Please come on up. Okay, so do we want to stand in front of here? Okay, we'll get council up in front here. Yeah, so just so that the folks following along on Facebook, we're getting a presentation from Enbridge Alliance Pipeline and a donation of $5,000 towards the community park. And you will be doing the check presentation right now. Matt Pattenden, Senior Vice President, Chemicals and Products, Shell Canada, along with Connell McMillan, who is the Corporate Relations Senior Advisor of Chemicals and Products. Please move up to the mic. Thank you for attending. It's not every day a VP comes to visit Bruderheim. Thank you for coming to Bruderheim today.
No, we're not that far away as well. We're just literally just down the road. So fantastic to be here. This is actually my first time in Bruderheim. So we just had a small snack at least. So I'll be sure to bring the family back when things are a bit warmer as well. They love pizza, so I'm sure they'll be really into that. So my name is Mark Pattenden. So I'm the Senior Vice President for Shell Canada Chemicals and Products. So I have accountability not just for Scotford, but also for Sarnia. And I'm also a member of the country coordination team led by Susanna Pierce, who's the country chair for Shell Canada. So great to be here. And I just wanted to take you through a bit of an update of where we are with Scotford more specifically. But I think before we go there, I just want to acknowledge, as both a Shell employee, but also just acknowledging the Scotford being in the area where there's a lot of people of Ukrainian heritage, how appalled we are at the situation in Ukraine. You may have seen in the media that Shell is actually exiting all its positions in Russia. So we have some upstream, so oil and gas production positions, liquefied natural gas, retail, lubricants, and also trading. And we are exiting all of those positions as quickly as we can. The world still does depend on Russian hydrocarbons, and it's about 10% of the world's kind of oil and gas supply. So we also have some long-term contractual commitments as Shell, which we are trying to unwind as quickly as possible. So we will have no future business dealings with Russia. So it's a horrible situation. We have many employees of Ukrainian heritage at Scotford, including 2 on my leadership team. And I must say, it's very distressing to hear the stories of people who still have family and friends back there. So just wanted to acknowledge that before we get on to what might seem quite insignificant in comparison to a war that's going on in Ukraine right now. So first of all, just thank you for inviting us here. And what I will take you through is a bit of a view of where are we as Scotford. And I think the important thing for me is Scotford has a long history. It's been here since 1985. It's been through a lot of different phases of change and growth over the last few decades. And now I think there's a pretty compelling and exciting future ahead as well. So one of the key things is Scotford being renamed as an energy and chemicals park. And I think as a company as well, Shell has moved from describing itself as an oil and gas company to an energy company, because we recognize that the sources of energy for this planet and for our customers ultimately will move slowly away from fossil fuels to more bio-based, but also green power. And that's a very important piece, which of course is also in line with the Government of Canada's ambition to be net zero by 2050. Shell has the same ambition to be net zero by 2050 as well. And that's of course to limit global warming to no more than 1.5 Celsius before the end of the century. So Scotford fits into that and is a pretty important and pivotal part of that. And I'll just take you through some of the brief updates. Go to the next slide, Connell. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully the mouse will communicate by Bluetooth that distance. So net zero, okay, thank you. So net zero by 2050, and actually the formatting, I don't know why that video is on the far side, but anyway, what's behind that video is it talks about what is actually net zero mean for Shell. So 1.7 gigatons of CO2. So giga is 9 zeros behind it. So think mega, then there's billion, then there's giga. So it's a large amount of CO2 to get to net zero from where we were in 2019. If you look at the bottom of the chart, that dark yellow or orangey sort of color is what we call scope 1 and scope 2. So this is the emissions of our facilities in terms of producing oil and gas products for customers, as well as chemicals. So you can see that slice of the pie is quite small. It's about 10%. The next sort of big yellow piece is what we call the scope 3 emissions. So these are the emissions of the customers when they burn the products we sell them. And then the gray piece is these are products we buy and then we sell to customers, but we don't manufacture them ourselves. And these are the again, the emissions of customers that use these products that we're selling to them. So the scale of this challenge, you can see it has to be done in step with customers. If we want to get to net zero, we can't do this by ourselves. We can do 10%, and then we're stuck unless our customers want to come with us on this journey. And of course, it's government, it's societal acceptance, etc. So whilst we see a reduction in fossil sort of feed and fossil fuels over the next decades, just as one example, and Shell with its refining sort of footprint worldwide, we expect to see about a 55% reduction in fuels by 2030. And that's sort of the average across the entire refining portfolio of Shell. So that's just one kind of maybe example of how we get there with our customers. Now, of course, to do the rest is a bit more of the story of why Energy and Chemicals Park. So I'll move to the next slide, please, Connell. And I won't, this connects to Shell reset its strategy in February 2021. It's called Powering Progress. And these 4 pillars are really 4 pillars of Shell's strategy, which are relevant to Scotford. So of course, it remains important. We are a corporation with shareholders, so generating shareholder value is still really important. And when we talk about decarbonisation, we always talk about profitable decarbonisation, not just decarbonisation because we've been altruistic or because we've been told to, but we're doing it profitably. The second thing is it's not just about reducing CO2, it's also about respecting nature. And when you think about solid waste, liquid waste, air emissions, but also even things like water use and use of natural resources and producing the products we produce, those are really important considerations. So it is about our impact to the environment, not just the CO2 footprint. Powering lives. I think the big part about this is about reflecting the society we live and work in, and therefore, it's about how we work together with customers, but also it's about jobs, and it's also about representation of the community in the workforce at Scotford. So if we think about sort of the measures of diversity we use, things like gender, we're working very hard to get greater representation of women in the workforce, particularly the front line, which is quite challenging because it really starts back at school. It starts with institutions like NAIT and SAIT. In some of our graduate pools now, we have more than 50% female. But then it's also about ethnicity. So I gave the example before of, there are many people of Ukrainian heritage here in Alberta. When we look at actually where people were born or their roots working at Scotford, Scotford is actually representing more than 60 different countries. So all Canadian, apart from 1 or 2 like me as a Kiwi. But the important thing is, that representation of Canadian society and the diversity of Canadian society is also really important. And last but not least is also representation of First Nations groups, which are currently underrepresented within Scotford's employee base as well. So I talked a bit about net zero already, so we can move on to the next slide. So when the CEO of the company announced the strategy back in February 2021, we also designated 5 energy and chemical parks. So one of them was Scotford. There's another one on the Gulf Coast in Louisiana. There is another one. There is 2 more in Northwest Europe, one in the Netherlands, one in Germany, and there's one in Singapore. So that's the 5. And the starting point for Scotford is it's already in a really good place in terms of, chemicals and energy park or energy and chemicals park. First of all, it's Canada's most efficient refinery. And, it's also more efficient than pretty much every refinery on the planet. So the way we have built this and the way we've integrated to recover energy as we produce the products that we sell to customers across Canada, we have got a refinery which is extremely efficient. And I might add the other 2 major businesses at Scotford, which are chemicals and the upgraders, are also very, very efficient and world-class in terms of energy efficiency. But we do need to go further. And that's what I'll talk about in a few extra additional slides. But first of all, one other thing that I think is just recognition of the richness of Alberta's natural resources. So often when people talk about Alberta, and before I came to Alberta, I always thought about it's oil and gas, it's oil sands, it's all that stuff. But coming here and actually realizing the rich agriculture in the province, the forestry, the high sunshine hours, and in some parts of the province, particularly the southern part of the province, high wind. All of these things are going to be sources of the solution for decarbonisation and also ultimately enabling Canada to get to net zero. So one thing we did last year as part of this is we are currently developing a renewable diesel project. We call it READY. And we brought in 1.5 million litres of canola oil from the open market. And we processed it through one of our units. And then we blended it to make a version of biodiesel to prove the concept that you can take not only actually canola, but also tallow. Probably you may or may not be aware, Alberta is one of the largest producers of tallow in the world as well. There's very large beef rendering plants southwest of Calgary. So tallow can also be used as a feedstock for biofuels as well. So that proof of concept gave us confidence to continue developing a biofuels project, which we hope to be able to talk about more openly. We talk about what is called FID, or final investment decision. So more to come on this front. So it's one of those things which is strongly connected to Alberta's agricultural base. And it's not just about canola or tallow, it's also about what is beyond that, because at some point, you need to move into what we describe as second generation biofuels. And although the technology is being developed and it's a relatively small scale, there are 2 demonstration projects in Canada right now, one in Ontario, one in Quebec, using municipal waste and using wood shavings or wood chips to make basically what we describe as sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, and biodiesel. So, and we are working these projects with other joint venture partners, but ultimately some of the, let's call it the byproducts of agriculture, are part of the solution for net zero in Canada, whether it's the meal from canola, not the canola oil itself, whether it's forestry waste, or whether it is another byproduct of agriculture, or even municipal waste from the bigger cities in Alberta, basically Calgary and Edmonton. So these are all going to be opportunities to develop in the future as well. And we see those as part of the future of the energy and chemical parks as well. So I want to talk about carbon capture and storage, because I talked about the sun, the wind, about agriculture and about forestry, but the other big resource in Alberta, particularly, but also in some of the other prairies, but here is where it's most developed, is carbon capture and sequestration, CCS. So we are developing, and we've announced that we are going to build out from what we've successfully done with Quest for the last 6 years to go to a much larger CO2 sequestration opportunity. And why is this important? Because if you think about the typical hydrocarbon we bring into Scotford, there's sort of 2 parts to that hydrocarbon. One is carbon and the other part is hydrogen. And actually, when you look at what is combusted and where you get the energy from, the hydrogen ultimately is the more important part. So if you can capture the CO2 and put it in the ground 2 kilometers beneath the surface in a special part of sandstone here in Alberta, you actually decarbonize further your emissions from Scotford. So Quest, as I say, we've been operating for 6 years safely and reliably. It's sequestering 1 million tons per annum into these sandstone layers 2 kilometers beneath the surface. It's been safe, it's been reliable. It was jointly funded by Shell, the Alberta government, and the federal government. We now know, having operated for 6 years, that we can reduce the capital cost of a facility typically by 30% roughly. And we also know the operating cost we can reduce somewhere around 40%. So we really understand how to drive down, just by applying technology and demonstration of a technology, how to take the next generation of CCS to the next level. It's very clear for Canada, but also for the world, CCS is part of the solution to achieve net zero by 2050. The IEA has actually said that unless a significant number of CCS projects are built across the world, we will not get to net zero. The other pathways collectively will not get us there. We need CCS as well. In an engagement with the Environment Minister of Canada earlier this week, Minister Guilbeault, with the industrial heartland, which of course is just to the south of Bruderheim, he was also clear, and he told the heartland members, I was there, that the government of Canada also sees CCS in Alberta as a really important enabler for the energy transition in Canada, which of course is a really important part of Alberta's future. So this layer of sandstone 2 kilometers below the surface can capture and sequester forever 100 million tons of CO2 for the next 800 years. And that's the International Energy Agency. That's not Shell. It's an independent agency outside of Canada, actually. So a really important enabler. So Polaris, for us, will be an opportunity to build out 10 million tons per annum of carbon capture, just under 1 million tons from our refinery. And the remaining 9 million tons will be the decarbonisation of other large emitters across the greater Edmonton area. So they could be customers, they could be in industries completely sort of different from oil and gas. So cement is an obvious one. The power industry is another one. But it could also be competitors as well. Also, as you may have heard the terminology around hydrogen or even blue hydrogen. In order to make hydrogen for Alberta, we need to capture that CO2 and actually put that in the ground as well. So some of the future remaining 9 million tons of this Polaris opportunity will also be for future projects at Scotford to produce what is called blue hydrogen, but which I'd just like to characterize as decarbonized hydrogen, which of course is part of the energy transition, again, essential for Canada to decarbonize heavy industry, to decarbonize heavy transport as well. So subject and contingent to the government of Alberta awarding pore space to Shell, there was a competitive process which we should hear back from the government of Alberta by the end of March. Then we will start to build out this project, and you will start, if we have that approval, you'll start to see activities on the ground pretty quickly because the project is quite mature. So one other thing about this is not just about net zero for Canada. There are opportunities to actually work on developing a new export industry from Alberta. And an MOU we announced with Mitsubishi, which is a Japanese company, producing blue hydrogen, blue ammonia in Alberta, again, through a similar process to the ones I've just described, will enable us and Mitsubishi to export blue ammonia to Japan. And that blue ammonia will be used to decarbonize the Japanese power industry. And the Japanese government have already set out targets to have a certain amount of blue ammonia by 2030 and a much larger number by 2050. So a huge enabler because we already have customer pull, if you like, to develop something that is a completely new industry in Alberta. Now, at the moment, ammonia is typically converted into ammonia urea, which then ends up as fertilizer for farmers. But this is another pathway. And of course, the ammonia that's mostly produced in Canada today is not decarbonized. It is doesn't have CCS connected to it typically. So this is the next step. And we announced that MOU, and we're starting to build out that opportunity with Mitsubishi in the years ahead as well. Some things where we've already taken investment decisions. So If you drive down Highway 214, and I think at the intersection is to Highway 220 at the back of Scotford, you will see there is a solar farm already built. And last week, we started producing power from that solar farm. It's being used to decarbonize our chemicals plant. And that solar farm generates around 5 megawatts of solar power. So an important proof point about solar energy in this part of Alberta, still quite a high number of sunshine hours here, around 2,500 a year. Not quite as many as southern Alberta, but certainly still it's economic to build solar facilities in this part of Alberta, particularly when you integrate them into the type of facility like we have at Scotford. So that is running, and you would say on a winter's afternoon, it was sunny, it was 4 p.m. The facility, although it can produce 4.6 megawatts, was actually producing 4 megawatts. So in the summer, it probably will produce more than 4.6 megawatts. We've also announced already and signed the deal with a company to build a much larger solar farm next to Scotford, 58 megawatts. It will be built over 144 acres, and that will be used to decarbonize the refinery power emissions. So we expect that to flow power to the refinery by the end of 2023. And last but not least, on the power front, this windy southern Alberta, there's a 100 megawatt wind farm being built in Drumheller by a company called Blue Earth Energy. And Shell Trading, one of the Shell affiliates in Canada, has bought all of its power. And of that power, Scotford has purchased 50 megawatts through what is called a power purchase agreement, a PPA. So over a year, a typical average year, we've now decarbonized with these 3 power projects 50% of Scotford's emissions due to imported power, electric power. But in the middle of summer, a windy, hot summer's day, it's 100%. So this is really material, and this is by the end of 2023. So these projects we've already made financial commitments to and will happen, or in the case of chemical solar, have already happened. In terms of where we are with Scotford today, of course, we just acknowledge the help, the support of the community to navigate the last 2 years. It's been incredibly challenging and difficult. And I have to say, in terms of the controls we've had to put around the site to, 1, protect the workforce, but 2, also protect the community and make sure more vulnerable members of the community were not impacted by a spread of COVID at site, which then went back into the community. We have had some very stringent controls around Scotford, and that included a testing mandate, so not a vaccine mandate, a testing mandate at the peak of the Omicron variant over the last winter. So we've actually stopped that testing mandate in December and January and February. We had that testing mandate. Essentially, if you went to site every 72 hours, you would be tested, irrespective of your vaccination status. So everyone was tested. And that picked up many asymptomatic cases, which of course then prevented us having any kind of issue with business continuity, with staffing up all our businesses. We're heading into the 3rd of 3, what we describe as mega turnarounds. So in the summer of 2020, in the fall of 2021, we had 2 mega turnarounds with many thousands of people on site. And on the weekend, we just started the 3rd of 3 mega turnarounds in 3 years. And we expect that major maintenance to go on for about the next 2 months. And the peak workforce will be around 2,400 people. So again, these turnarounds, these stops, think of like a major overhaul of your car. Typically, we're doing these somewhere between every 4 to 6 years. And this is the turn of one part of the plant, which we call Upgrader North. So that major maintenance started on the weekend, and we will achieve peak people on site around the middle of April. So maybe just the last slide to talk fueling kindness. One of the things, of course, and the dilemmas we had during the pandemic is fueling kindness was quite kind of optically visible in the community, a lot of community volunteerism by our employees as well. And of course, with the pandemic, we had to do this in a different way. And so you can see some examples of where we have done that. The Fort Edmonton Foundation, which is an Indigenous Peoples exhibit. If you've been there, it's very moving. It's a very impactful exhibit where we were one of the lead sponsors. That was opened last summer, and I went to the opening. It was, and it is a very beautiful thing to go and have a look at if you haven't been yet. TELUS World of Science, we have helped them as well. Skills Alberta, this is the thing I talked about in terms of the demographics of our workforce. So really getting more females to be interested in working in areas where maybe traditionally you wouldn't have seen many females, but we really see, and when we talk about a potential demographic issue or a labor shortage in Alberta, I think we believe if we leverage all parts of the workforce in Alberta, we will have a way less of an issue than if we're only kind of focusing on certain demographics. So getting more females to work in places like Scotford, really important. People with, of different ethnicities, but also First Nations groups from around the greater Scotford area, particularly the 4 groups who are the most prominent in sort of the greater Scotford area. So the Skills Canada Alberta specifically is focusing on females, but there is a wider piece to this as well. And then last but not least is EIPS with the Indigenous outdoor exhibits at the schools. So just some things that we have done with Fueling Kindness. And now with hopefully the tail end of the pandemic sort of coming in the rear view mirror, we'll be able to also have more employees volunteering out in the community as we go into the spring and the summer and thereafter. So that's all I had. Again, thank you for inviting us, but happy to take any questions and, any kind of reflections or comments you had as well.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you for recognizing our Ukrainian people, because that is terribly sad. We run into them every day as I work. A few questions. CO2, have you heard that it helps with the fertilizer end and in the farmlands or anything like that? Have you heard of anything like that? I was reading an article and it came up. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you asked that, because greenhouses in the Netherlands, so Holland, actually take CO2 emissions from one of our refineries, and those CO2 emissions are piped to greenhouses very close to the facility.
Okay.
And the good thing about that is it actually saves natural gas. So typically what farmers in the Netherlands were doing before was combusting natural gas inside their greenhouses, and sometimes it would get too hot, so they have to cool it down again, and they'd get the CO2 to make the fruit and vegetables grow faster on the kind of the shoulder seasons of spring and fall. So yeah, it is something, but the consumption of CO2 for those uses is not massive relative to the emissions that we need to reduce in Canada. But certainly it's an opportunity for farmers, for sure.
Yeah. My other question, with your solar farm and building, are you going to be putting back into the grid? Have you got that capability, or you're not there yet? We will be able to. We have some commercial agreements we need to work through, but in theory, if we are what we call long on green power, we have excess green power. Once we've got all these facilities up and running, we will just need to see whether we foresee with some of the other projects we're building, whether we will be having excess green power to actually sell it to the grid. The interesting thing about the Alberta grid is it's not that green right now relative to other provinces. If you look at BC or Quebec, it's very green because of hydro. So the opportunity is still there and there's a lot of growth of both wind and solar in Alberta. So it's going to dramatically change over the next few years. I think the issue will be when we have excess green power, it's highly likely everyone else will have excess green power as well. So you may actually have a glut. Now that's great for consumers because power prices will be very low. But in the winter, of course, with intermittency,
you'll go the other way. So, you know, there is some important aspects to the grid to consider in terms of how you balance the grid in terms of the intermittency challenges between winter and summer. Albeit Alberta, bright sunny days in winter, there's still a lot of power being generated when it's bright and sunny. And in fact, the way we design the solar panels in Scotford, you actually get reflected energy off the snow. And so we have what we describe as a dual array. So you actually get, in the design we have for the 144-acre solar farm, originally we thought we would only get 30 megawatts. Once the company that's building this realized this dual array opportunity, we now get 58 megawatts. So interesting twist on snow actually helping you with solar energy.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And hopefully when we get back to meeting in Port St. Maur, we'll have some tours. I would be very interested to see that. I've really got into, I do home inspections. So all this is becoming a big question. And if you're in the right place, you can put money or you can put solar power access back into the grid and whether you've got that access and all that. So that's a huge, big question and a learning curve for me. So anything I can learn, I learn. Thank you very much for that. Great presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions, Deputy Mayor Judy. Councillor George and then Councillor Wayne.
So we've been talking about carbon capturing. Has there been any research on possible ways to release that energy from the storage caverns and say put it to work turning turbines or something like that? Or is it low pressure storage?
Yeah, I mean, the issue would be you need to actually take the CO2 to quite a high pressure. You almost nearly liquefy the CO2 to get it into the reservoir. So, you know, any kind of, let's call it recovery of that energy, you're going to still have to do something to put the CO2 back into the reservoir. So probably the more efficient way to do it will be to generate power from either natural gas or from green power, wind or solar, because that reservoir is sitting under a high pressure, which is why we need to use compressors and why we have wells to contain the CO2 within Mother Earth.
That is something to look at, though, as a certain way to. If we could find a use for the CO2, we could also find a way for the use of the stored up energy that's there on the release.
Yeah, so when we talk about energy efficiency at Scotford, any kind of combusted product, we will try and recover as much energy as we can from the heat, but also from the pressure through the processes that we've already got at Scotford. So that's why, for example, the refinery is one of the most efficient refineries in the world, and it is the most efficient refinery in Canada. So I think the way we've optimized now, let's call it before you put CCS on the back of many of these units, I think we are already at the sweet spot in terms of recovery of energy. Certainly, when you capture the CO2, it's almost got no pressure. When you capture it, concentrate it, and then put it into the reservoir.
Thank you for the questions, Councillor George. Please remember to turn your mic off. Thank you. Councillor Wayne.
Just first, I just want to say thank you for coming out and doing the presentation for us. If my voice cuts out, I apologize, but I was a son's hockey game and lots of yelling and hooting and hollering. So I just wanted to just recognize you guys and say thank you for your continued support over the years for community initiatives that we've done here, both financially and for I guess donation of man hours coming out and supporting. So I just wanted to say thank you for things like the fire hall, the community park, the food bank, the Indigenous garden at the school, and the firefighting equipment and trees at the community park. So I just want to say thank you for supporting us with our initiatives, and it puts a presence throughout town for everything that we do, and your name is out there. So I thank you very, very much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Councillor Dana, did you have your hand up? Okay. Deputy Mayor Judy.
Sorry, I have one more question. So you're talking about energy, like municipal waste and all that kind of stuff. Are you talking about like the garbage, like the recyclable garbage type thing?
So yeah, there's two pieces to it. So the two projects that we're currently working with other partners, one in Ontario and one in Quebec, one is called Forge and the other one's called Enerchem. One of them is taking municipal waste and it's converting it into biodiesel and also sustainable aviation fuel. So basically low carbon fuels for either aircraft or, trucks or whatever. The second project, which is in Quebec, is taking wood chips and it is converting them with another process along with some what we call green hydrogen, which is produced by electrolysis. So you take water, you split it into two, you get hydrogen, you get oxygen using green power. We are using and developing, again, trying to produce similar products, so sustainable aviation fuel and also biodiesel as well. So what does this mean for Scotford? So, proof of concept of these two projects that are not that big, and this is about proving the technology. It's scaled up from the laboratory to, let's call it, sort of medium size, but not the size you would say is full on industrial of the scale that actually makes economic sense. So the next step would be to build something much bigger. And yes, they could take municipal waste, they could take wood chips, but there's also, when you think about canola oil, there's also canola meal. And though canola meal is used to feed livestock, if canola meal can also be purposed to produce biofuels, then one of these processes can be used to do that as well with some modifications. The other part, which is around, we call it circularity. So this is about plastic waste. So there are already laws in Canada about single-use plastics. And of course, I think many of you might have seen many of the impacts that single-use plastics have in the oceans. So one of the things that Shell is a part of is the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, which is a many company consortium. And Shell's specific commitment is to recycle 1 million tons of plastic waste by 2025. And what we will do, and we've already have a proof of concept in Louisiana at our Norco facility, is the waste is converted into a type of oil with a very specific technology. It's called pyrolysis oil. And that pyrolysis oil can then be used either in a chemicals facility or in a refinery. And you can use it to make basically sustainable fuels. You call them circular fuels, but at the end of the day, they also have very low carbon intensity. So that is also an opportunity in cities where there is a significant opportunity to sort and gather plastic waste. And then you need to have fairly significant population concentrations for that. So the Greater Toronto area is definitely an opportunity. Whether Edmonton and Calgary and even Vancouver is big enough is probably a question mark in terms of an opportunity for Scotford. But in saying that, there's also a significant population on the west coast of the US where you could transport pyrolysis oil potentially and take it across a border to produce these types of fuels or chemicals. So I think there's an opportunity there. It's just not maybe so prominent relative to many of the other opportunities for Scotford. But certainly for our Norco refinery on the Gulf Coast in Louisiana, this is something we're already doing in practice. So, and our commitment is to get to 1 million tons, and then obviously we'll need to continue from there after 2025. But first step is proving the concept, scaling it, and then deciding what we do next, because clearly the world needs to do something with the single-use plastics.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. Does anybody else have any questions? I'd like to ask something. Every time we get fortunate when Shell helps out our community, which has happened many, many times, Connell's presented many times for our community, and we get a picture with you. This time we get an opportunity to get a picture with you, and it not necessarily has to be a check presentation. So if you do us the honor of letting our council have a picture with you folks,
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you again for your presentation, and look forward to the carbon capture and storage from Polaris being brought online. That'd be great. So if we can do a little pictures taking in front here, we'll gather in front. Okay. Okay, and we're very fortunate this evening. We have Chris Burt from Fortis, a Stakeholder Relations Manager of Municipalities, here for a presentation. And council is ready. Yep, go ahead, Chris. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So I'm Chris Burt, the Stakeholder Relations Manager with Fortis Alberta. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My mother would always introduce me as the second baby born at the new Fort Saskatchewan Hospital. And I note that there's a new Fort Saskatchewan Hospital now. So give you a sense of when I was hatched, so to speak. I'm sure each of you know Fortis Alberta. We are a power distribution company. You can see on the map of Alberta, the dark blue, that is Fortis Alberta's service territory. I'm the Stakeholder Relations Manager that serves the Sherwood Park through Camrose, Wainwright, and Provost, and up through Bruderheim area. So that's the territory that I serve, and I've really appreciated getting to know people and working with them. Now let me see if I can advance this.
You cut our flowers on a good day there, right?
Yeah,
no hail, no rain, nothing like that.
Yeah, that was. I think that was with your Communities in Bloom, and there we go. So there's just some details about Fortis. We operate in 240 communities. We have we employ 1,100 Albertans throughout the province, and I'm actually relatively new with Fortis. I started with them back in November. Prior to that, I had been with the Alberta Utilities Commission. So this is a new role for me, and it's exciting to see the passion that Fortis has for serving its customers. So just at a high level, electricity in the province, it starts with generation. From the generation sources, it's carried via the transmission lines to get close to our homes. And the yellow lines there, that's where Fortis comes in. We're the ones that distributes the power from the high transmission voltage down to distribution voltage. And we have the wires that go to your homes and the meters. Your bill will come from a retailer. And you're likely aware in the province of Alberta, there's a number of choices with respect to retailers. There's regulated retailers. There's also competitive retailers. And you can find out more about those retailers on the Utility Consumer Advocates website. We are regulated by the Alberta Utilities Commission. What that means is the rates that we charge are fully vetted and determined to be just and reasonable by the Alberta Utilities Commission. As well, our rates and terms and conditions are also approved by the Alberta Utilities Commission. So just some history with respect to franchise agreements. Prior to 2001, municipalities and utility companies would negotiate one-off agreements. Then in 2001, the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, ATCO, and it actually wasn't FortisAlberta at the time, I believe it was Utilicor, they presented what we call a template franchise agreement that was approved by the Alberta Utilities Commission. That was used throughout the province. That agreement was renewed in 2012. And then in 2015, the AUC introduced a streamlined approval process for franchise agreements. It used to be a lengthy process that could take at least 60 days. Now, when communities use the standard template, the Alberta Utilities Commission approves those franchise agreements in less than 6 days, essentially. So it's been a huge time saver. The streamlined approval process, as well as the standard template that all the communities in Alberta use. So what is a franchise agreement? Well, it's in our case, it's the agreement between the town of Bruderheim and Fortis, and where exclusive rights to provide essential distribution service are granted. We operate and maintain the electric distribution system, and we use municipal rights of way. So within the municipality of Bruderheim, FortisAlberta is the service provider for electricity. Yep. Okay, the current franchise agreement. So back in 2013, the town of Bruderheim and FortisAlberta, we entered into a franchise agreement. It was a 20-year agreement. It had one initial term of 10 years with 2 subsequent terms of 5 years. And the town approved that, and you can see there in bylaw number 7-2012. And that franchise agreement became effective July 1st, 2013. So we are coming up to the expiration of that initial term. That will be in June 30th of 2023. And according to the franchise agreement, 1 year before that expiration, FortisAlberta is to provide the town of Bruderheim notice of our intention to continue and enter into one of the subsequent 5 years. And then within that 1 year, Bruderheim will also approve and agree to continue with the franchise agreement. Yep. Many benefits to a franchise agreement. It really is a long-term partnership between Fortis and the town. It's another source of revenue. We have a commitment to maintain the streetlights. There's also, I'll just jump to Schedule B. It's something for additional services. We're starting to use that in some of our municipalities. For example, in Southern Alberta, there's a municipality that was underserved with high-speed internet. And through Schedule B, we were able to work with that municipality to help them get high-speed internet in their community. So yeah, just a lot of good things can come out of these franchise agreements. Okay.
Chris, did you want any questions during the presentation?
Whenever you'd like them, I can take them anytime.
Going back to the last slide there,
Sure.
Schedule B, what is so magic about Schedule B?
It's just an opportunity where a municipality can access funding from Fortis Alberta for projects like this. And with that funding, this community, as I understand it, put up Wi-Fi repeaters and whatever was needed in town to provide that high-speed internet. And they accessed funding through Fortis Alberta rather than through the, the Municipal Finance Board.
Okay, well, thank you. It'd be interesting to know more details, I guess. But
okay, yeah.
Thanks for that. I had never heard of that.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor?
So you're allowed to tell us the town?
I believe it was, if I say Coots, it was Milk River. And if I say Milk River, it was Coots.
So just tell our administration. If nothing else, we'd like to talk to those people that are there to see how that exactly all works.
Yeah.
I have a rough idea of what you just said, but it's always nice to get the other side of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for the question, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. The franchise fee. This is what everybody thinks of when they think of franchise agreements. So the franchise fee, it can provide an additional source of revenue for a municipality. And that franchise fee percentage, the Alberta Utilities Commission capped it at 20%. It's based on the transmission and distribution portions of our rates only. And that cap of 20%, as a municipality, you can determine what your needs may be and then request that percentage. And that's something that you would work with us, and through your administration, we would be able to provide what the amounts collected in the distribution and transmission fees. And then with a little bit of math, we can figure out, what a 5%, 10%, for example, franchise fee would generate in terms of revenues for the municipality. At the bottom, you can see some municipalities, and I understand Bruderheim did not collect a franchise fee. That's new, I understand, this year. But we have, of our 163 municipalities, 135 of them collect franchise fees. We also pay linear taxes. So that's the taxes on our property that are within the municipality, and that flows directly back to the municipality. I think there's another slide in there somewhere. Yeah, I see it. I see it in your package. Sure. I hope everyone has that in there. Yeah. Maybe I'll just, there's a slide. It's called municipal comparison. It's just before the last slide. 10 and 11 that have lines. Oh, okay. So this is a comparison that we've produced that just shows where Bruderheim falls in terms of franchise fees compared to other communities. So we have the town of Bowden. They have a population of 1,282, just a little bit less than Bruderheim. They have a 15% franchise fee. Legal, they also have a 15%. At the far end, you'll see the community Nobleford. They are not charging a franchise fee. So what you can see is that that franchise fee really is controlled by the municipalities based on your needs, based on the needs of your constituents here in town. And that's certainly something that we can work with you to fine tune. So our request this evening is, I had sent Patty a letter earlier with our intention to renew is to receive council support to continue the next 5-year term of the franchise agreement. And I'm open for any questions.
Does anyone from council have any questions for Chris? In our request for decisions portions of this council meeting, that agreement renewal is slotted in here. So
thank you.
Appears no one from council has any questions for you right now, Chris. So letting you off easy. Thank you very much for the presentation.
I'll certainly be around if you want to ask questions directly to me. And
okay, thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for the presentation. So this ends the presentations for this portion of our council meeting. So we'll be looking for a motion to accept the presentations from Enbridge, Shell, and Fortis. Deputy Mayor.
I make a motion that we accept the presentation from Enbridge, Shell Canada, and Fortis Alberta presentations.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote then. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. We can move on to number 6.1, adopt minutes of March 2nd, regular meeting of council. Looking for a motion from council to approve those minutes. Somebody please put up their hand. Thank you, Councillor Dana.
My motion that we adopt the minutes of March 2nd, 2022 regular meeting of council.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the motion to adopt the minutes? You haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. We can move on to number 7 now, 7.1 information requests. We'll start with Deputy Mayor Judy.
A couple things. One in particular, this tower that's supposed to be going up behind our arena. Can we touch base and see where he's at? And let us know by email.
Mr. Mayor, through Deputy Mayor, we did reach out again after your initial request. We still haven't heard anything back from them.
So not back from them, or they're not getting nothing back from the federal?
They haven't replied to our request for information.
Okay, thank you.
We'll keep trying.
You mentioned a couple of things, Deputy Mayor. We'll come back to you maybe, or?
Actually, I'll put that other thing on hold because the snow is melting.
Thank you for that. Councillor Dana, any council or information requests?
Just want to discuss on how we can go about starting with the parade float. Because I would like to I would like us to have it all up and ready. And I don't know if I need approval or if we have to make a committee. So if anyone could give me some sort of guidance on what to do so we could get the ball rolling, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, please.
I believe that we have funding for a float. I'm not sure what the game plan is to prepare a float. I don't think the intent was that council would be volunteering to make the float. Is that right? But we certainly could help if we want to volunteer, or anyone from the community for that matter.
That wasn't my question. I was just asked for if I have to get approval because it was $5,000 given. So do I just go and have at it?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Jacobs, administration has some thoughts they'll share with council at a later time.
Thanks for the question, because there are events coming this year and parade season starts in like May, so not that far away. Thank you for the question. Councillor Len.
Yeah, I have a few things I want to bring up this evening. the seniors breakfast, the past one, we had 35 people there. We have a potluck supper coming up March 24th from 5 to 9. So put that on your calendar. Next breakfast is April 2nd from 8 to 11. The seniors need $17,750 from the CIP grant for their utilities, maintenance, and insurance. And the winner of the big 50-50 draw, we all bought tickets from online, was Bruce Kasneshna. He won $1,590. Good for Bruce. So just as things that we need to bring up, and this, the CIP grant is important to the seniors. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Len. Definitely was good for the seniors, the 50-50 draw. Yeah, please remember to turn your mic off. Oh, thank you so much. Councillor Wayne?
Nothing at this time.
Councillor George?
As many of us remember, we had a incident at in our post office here a week and a half or so ago. And there was a sizable loss. I have concern about the security and the future of our post office. I would, how should I put it? I would like for maybe the town to address this situation into the need for the post office, but also the need for the Canada Post and the ownership of that building to step up their security systems. There's no way that there should be an ample number of parcels removed from a government post office, let alone many of the post office keys. The security system is not sufficient for the type of material that is handled in that building. I'm talking about private mail, personal information. As it stands right now, we are all of our citizens within this town is paying the price. We all have to adhere to the Canada Post protocol by being at the post office by 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Thursday, no access to mailboxes. What is the Canada Post procedures into getting this problem mitigated? And I think it is we as a council, as a town council, should address this problem. Something has to be done in the future to secure that our mail service.
Thank you for that, Councillor George. So what you're asking is if administration could contact Canada Post to see what their game plan is for security for that post office?
Yes, and as a resident of this town, I do not feel comfortable having my private information handled in the way it is without any security system that's in there. I've been told there's no cameras in there because of people don't want to put it in because there's no, it's too costly. Well, this is a government building and I'll stop there.
Thank you, Councillor George. I do know that the cameras from the hotel did record some folks that were doing that. So hopefully the police can make good use of that. But yeah, I think administration's caught that one. So thank you, Councillor George.
And as I drive around Old Town today, I was wondering if I should go back home and get my rowboat and the oars. Many of the swales have no drainage. They're full of water, up to 6 to 8 inches of water in the swales. And if there is drainage, the drainage is not going down the curbs, it's going on the sidewalks. It's time we started to put some pressure on our drainage systems and get them cleaned out.
Thank you for that, Councillor George. I'm sure that Public Works is going to be looking after that priority for our town. Anything else, Councillor George?
Not at this time.
Thank you. I did have a couple of little things for information requests. I noticed at the arena that the advertisement for Silsilica or Sherway, whatever you want to call them now, they used to have a sign on the boards that they had paid for advertising. That sign is broken and it's laying in behind the boards. And I'm just wondering if that, now hearing that they have new leadership with that company, maybe they would be willing to sponsor a new signboard at the arena. So I wanted to present that opportunity. And the other thing that I wanted to ask about was events, and Councillor Dana brought that up already. So that's all that I had for information requests, and we can go around the table for program requests. I'll start with Councillor George.
Nothing at this moment.
Councillor Wayne.
Nothing at this time, thanks.
Councillor Len.
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Dana.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Judy.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, and we've made it past number 7. Now we move on to number 8, 8.1 electric distribution system franchise agreement renewal. And before we launch into that, I just wanted to remind council that one of our great partners in industry is Fortis, and Fortis has helped us out with a number of great projects in our town, not the least of which is defibrillators that were funded by Fortis for our community and key locations in town. So thank you to Fortis. So I turn the floor over to CAO Patty for 8.1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to present council with information on the opportunity to renew the electric distribution franchise agreement with Fortis Alberta for additional 5 years. Recommending that Town Council give approval to the renew electric distribution franchise agreement between Fortis Alberta and the Town of Bruderheim as outlined in Bylaw 07-2012 for an additional period of 5 years. Council history: the Town of Bruderheim signed the electric distribution franchise agreement Schedule A of Bylaw 07-2012 on April 3rd, 2013. The current agreement, which was for a period of 10 years, will expire in 2023. Section 3 provides a provision to renew for a further period of 5 years, the first subsequent term, provided the company gives written notice to municipality not less than 12 months prior to the expiration of the initial term of its intention to renew this agreement, and the municipality agrees in writing to the renewal not less than 6 months prior to the expiration of the initial term. Strategic plan areas: sustainable and safe infrastructure, an exclusive franchise to provide distribution access services within the municipality, a healthy, vibrant community to ensure the municipality has services for the community, open and transparent governments. Council is required to comply with the Emergency Management Act and fulfill the responsibilities assigned under the Act. Other impacts: legislative Bylaw 07-2012 electric distribution system franchise agreement. Summary: Fortis Alberta has reached out to us to explore the option to renew this agreement for additional 5 years. The terms set out in this bylaw and Schedule A agreement outline the terms and conditions of the agreement and ensure that we have infrastructure to meet the needs of our community. Communication plan: this bylaw will be posted on the Town of Bruderheim website, and the renewal letter will be forwarded to Fortis Alberta for their approval. We've attached the Bylaw 07-2012 electric distribution system franchise agreement, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, CEO Patty. But before we launch into a motion for this, this in no way changes the amount that the franchise fee agreement is. This is just a renewal of the.
So, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. This is just a franchise with Fortis Alberta to provide electrical service here in our community.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm looking for a motion, Councillor George.
I make a motion that Council give approval to renew. Push the button. I make a motion that Town Council give approval to renew the electric distribution franchise agreement between Fortis Alberta and the Town of Bruderheim as outlined in Bylaw 07-2012 for an additional period of 5 years.
Thank you
as
for that.
Presented.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Deputy Mayor Judy.
So I didn't see it in the act as I was reading it, but as I'm seeing your strategic plan priorities areas, we have to comply with the Emergency Management Act. Wouldn't it be the Utilities Act?
Yes. Yeah. Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Yes.
Through Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to figure out how that one fit in.
Yeah, that one looked like I got caught in a copy and paste from something else. So thanks for noticing that. I noticed that as well. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council with this motion? Okay, haven't heard none. Call for a vote then. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So we can move on to 8.2, emergency management bylaw. I think that's where that came from.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to present council with emergency management bylaw, which changes recommended by the Alberta Emergency Management Agency during the review of our municipal emergency plan, recommending that town council give second reading to bylaw 03/2022, the emergency management bylaw. The council also gives third reading to bylaw 03/2022, the emergency management bylaw. Council history. Emergency Management Bylaw 06/2021 received third reading by council on June 17, 2021. This bylaw contained numerous revisions based on changes made by the Emergency Management Act in 2020. On March 2nd, 2022, council gave first reading to bylaw 03/2022, the emergency management bylaw. Strategic plan areas to ensure the municipality has an emergency management plan for the community. Open governance. Council is required to comply with the Emergency Management Act and fulfill the responsibilities assigned under this act. Other impacts, legislative and legal, Emergency Management Act, bylaw 06/2021, emergency management bylaw existing. The town of Bruderheim underwent the annual emergency management audit of all documents on February 26, 2022. There was an audit on the emergency social service plan in the spring of 2021. Revisions made in the new bylaw include page 2, section P, added definition of incident command post. Page 2Q, revised information on first line. Page 5, section 31, new statement to clarify it does not require 3 members of the Emergency Advisory Committee to declare a state of local emergency. 1 member can declare it after consultation with the Director of Emergency Management. Page 6, section 38, added information about pandemic state of local emergency time lapse. There are policies and bylaws in place to provide guidance for the Director of Emergency Management and Council for emergencies that could arise in the community. Within the authorization and verification of unbudgeted expenditures policies under Procedure 4 states, any single unbudgeted expenditure in amount of over $50,000 or an unbudgeted expenditure which results in a cumulative total in such expenditures in excess of $50,000 to the budget year must have council authorization before the expenditure. Within the CAO bylaw, 04/2020, section 3.37 states, expend monies in cases where a state of local emergency has been declared that are not an approved budget and subsequently report to council on the implications of these expenditures up to a maximum of $50,000. Communication plan, this bylaw will be posted on the Town of Bruderheim website and placed in all emergency management manuals. We've attached the emergency management bylaw 06/2021, that's the current bylaw, as well as the emergency management bylaw 03/2022 proposed.
Thank you for that. Just for clarification, so on our package 8.2 emergency management bylaw, it says 03/2022, but in the second reading and third reading, it says 02/2022. So we're moving 03/2022.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, where do you see that?
In the agenda that we have, it says emergency management bylaws.
Do you actually read the report? Yeah, it says 03. Yeah, thank you.
So it's 03.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I look for a motion from council for the second reading. Councillor Wayne.
The town council gives second reading to bylaws 03/2022, the emergency management bylaw.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion from council? Okay, thank you. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion is carried. So we'll look for a motion for the third reading to bylaw 03/2022. Councillor George.
That council gives third reading to bylaw 03/2022, the emergency management bylaw as presented.
Thank you, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Okay, haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So we're finished 8.2, and now we move on to 9.1. Need a motion to receive the mayor and council committee reports as information. Deputy Mayor Judy.
I make a motion that council receive the mayor and council committee reports as information.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? I just wanted to add one thing that may not be in my report. I had reached out to our MLA to help move something along. Every 10 years or thereabouts, we seem to have a major fire north of us, and nothing's really changed in a natural area. So I'm trying to push something along that the Strathcona, Lamont County, and our province get together and actually do something in the natural area to prevent that disaster from happening again and threatening our community. So there's a meeting planned coming up March. I can't remember what the date is, but we'll see if it flies or not. And I just wanted to alert our council that that's out there. And that's all that I have. That's an extra for my report. And I did not make the Lions Committee meeting on last Thursday. Any other comments, questions, or concerns with, go ahead, Councillor George. Thank you, Councillor George. I didn't remind you to turn your mic on, so sorry about that. Okay, any other comments, questions, or concerns with Mayor and Council Committee reports? Haven't heard. Oh, no, Councillor Wayne.
I just wanted to thank Jillian and Claire with Resilient Rules. They had joined the 4-Air Partnership meeting to see if there's they can get some more. They can work together, getting information from them from FAP, and supporting what their project is. So they're working together over the next couple of weeks, I think, to do what they're doing. She didn't really go into great detail of what she wanted, but she just wanted to sit down with them and talk to them and question them, or get some more information and hopefully work together on the next project here. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. And that's a good reminder on resilient rurals. There's a lot of very important work being done, and every day resilient rurals information that is key for folks is being pushed out on social media. And I'm not 100% sure that our council is fully aware of that resource and what that resilient rurals organization is doing for our community. And maybe there might be a good reminder to just throw a blurb up on the screen every once in a while. This is what Resilient Rurals is doing for our community, because people hear that and then it flashes by, and I don't know that everybody's catching it. So I just wanted to highlight that's an important key thing for our community going forward. Thank you for that, Councillor Wayne. Any other Deputy Mayor?
I like this format of this meeting thing way better. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions, or concerns with Mayor and Council Committee reports? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Now we move on to 9.2, Chief Administrative Officer report. Looking for a motion from Council. Deputy Mayor.
I make a motion that Council receive the Chief Administrator Officer report as information.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the CAO report? Councillor George, and thank you. Turn on your mic.
In the utilities part, temporary power for the road service along Highway 45, that's that drainage across from the motel there, right?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Campbell, that's great. We are partnering with Alberta Transportation to put in a sump pump there, and Fortis is dropping the power line for us, and Transportation is installing the sump pump until we can get a more permanent solution. So the pump will pop and we'll have a hose going across the road. And so we don't have to man that 24/7 with our own staff. As you know, we received a grant to do overland drainage study for the entire community. And so we're expecting that to be completed late fall. And then by next year, we'll have a strategy going forward on what next steps will be for a more permanent solution. And we'll work with Alberta Transportation on partnering to get that done. So we're very excited to have this interim solution that frees up our staff.
This pump out system will be an automatic control system then, right? Float system.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that to Councillor Campbell, that's correct. It's just a short term to get through this year.
And this hose, it goes across the road.
That's correct, as it always does when we do it, right?
It'll be left there permanently, though, won't be taken up daily or?
Those details I'd have to get back to you. I know we looked into some ramps, those permanent road ramps where you can run hoses. They're quite expensive. So we were looking at ramping it with some clay perhaps and some other options, but we haven't actually settled on that yet until we see the installation.
And what type of protection what have we got around that pump system there to keep little fingers out?
Mr. Mayor, we're probably through Councillor Campbell, we're probably construction fencing.
Thank you.
Again, we haven't nailed down all those details, but there'll be some sort of protection around there.
Thank you, Councillor George. Please turn your mic off. Just a reminder for council, any kind of questions, you don't have to sit on them and hatch them like eggs and wait for the next meeting to come. You can send off an email to administration and that makes it more efficient. Just a thought. Deputy Mayor. Just hold on one sec, Councillor George, Deputy Mayor's turn.
So just a thought, thanks very much for pushing the snow, getting us all out. I was in other communities and they're still plowing snow. And even though we've got lots of water puddles everywhere, because we do in Brookside too, it will melt, it will go down. Everybody's flooding this year. We've got lots of snow. So it's called breathe 3 times before we complain, because it will go down. And as long as our drainage is open, and it's going, people in the city are walking on the streets because every sidewalk is plugged this year. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately, Bruderheim is not exceptional to this, and we're not warm enough here that it all melts. So just bear with us and don't go walking outside. I'm sure if you really need exercise, we'll open up the hall and you can walk around in circles like they're doing the malls. And they are, no word of a lie. So just bear with us, people. That's all I say. But thanks a lot for pushing this on.
Mr. Mayor, through Deputy Mayor, if I could just expand on that. If residents know that they have a catch basin in front of their property, it's really helpful if you can dig that out for us. And crews are still working right now. We have some issues in Sunset right now, and crews they're probably going to be working 12-hour days with this temperature. So we do have the steamer on the back of the truck, and we do have sandbags. So if residents are experiencing a danger to their house, please contact us. Don't wait till it's flooding. We're all meeting with some residents that typically have trouble in our community with overland flooding in their residential properties to talk about some mitigation. And as we know, the incredible amount of snow in the fields and all that will be coming this way. So yeah, residents, if you know residents that need help, please tell them to call the administration office and we can see if we can help them with some mitigation strategies.
Thank you, CAO Pat. Deputy Mayor.
And I did put out on social media, if you look under your trees, they're dry. So put all your excess snow under the trees because they need the water. And as I drove into town, like as I just come from my place to here, there's lots of places that are bare under those trees. So I mean, if we got lots of water, start pumping.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments, questions, or concerns with the CAO report? One thing I wanted to add for the CAO report, draw your attention. First of all, economic development. It says that the town has welcomed 3 new businesses in our community, a jewelry designer, a painter, and a house cleaner. That's great positive news for our community. And I know folks at home can't see it, but when we get the CIO report on our computers, there's over 3 pages of activities that the community is going through with our public works and administration doing work for our community. And sometimes I wonder if we could do a better job communicating all of the things that are done every day in our community so that the residents know where their tax dollars are going. Just a thought. And so, Deputy Mayor.
How are our gala tickets selling, Mayor's Gala tickets?
Mr. Mayor, we only have 10 tickets left, so.
The capacity is 120?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So any other thoughts, concerns from council with the CIO report? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just did want to mention that this is on our website. It's in the council package. If people scroll through to the end, the reports are on there if they were interested.
Great. Thanks for reminding folks. Any other comments, questions, or concerns with the CIO report? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. We're going to have a closed session. So we're looking for a motion. I was just thinking maybe we want a comfort break for 5 minutes.
I motion that we have a comfort break.
Yeah, we've done that before, for sure. The way the public is done. Yeah, well, we still have to close it out, but is council in agreement with moving a number 11 in front of number 10? Just looking for consensus. Anybody opposed? No, okay. So then we'll jump to correspondence and information items. And do we need to comfort break right now? Okay. Yep, just thought I'd check. Yeah, so we're looking for a motion to accept the correspondence and information items. Councillor Len. Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the information? The only thing I wanted to add is that we got a letter from the Alberta Municipal Affairs Office of the Minister, MLA Calgary Hayes. Everybody should have seen the email from council that we're informed that the town of Bruderheim has been approved for a grant of $100,000 for the regional governance study project. This amount reflects the maximum grant amount for which the partnership is eligible under the 2021-2020 restructuring component. The conditional grant agreement will be mailed to your chief administration officer to obtain the appropriate permits or signatures. I congratulate the partnership on initiating this project, and I wish you every success in your efforts as you explore administrative, financial, and service impacts of a potential amalgamation with Strathcona County. And this is exactly what the letter reads. So signed by Rick McIver, Minister, which I can pass a letter around. So that's all that I have for any correspondence. Anything from council, any comments, questions, or concerns with that correspondence from council? Councillor Wayne, did you have your hand up? No, okay. Then we'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So now we'll look for a motion to go out of the public session. Councillor Wayne?
Make a motion to go out of public session.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried.